Right, in this video I'm going to do two examples of solving a system of two equations and two unknowns using an augmented matrix, and then we'll do one example of solving a system of three equations and three unknowns using an augmented matrix. So the 3 by 3 or the 3 by 4 matrix, the last example, is going to take a little bit longer. The smaller ones won't take so long. So if we and it's called using the Gauss-Jordan elimination method, and our goal is to get in the form RREF, reduced row echelon form. So this is what we want to make our matrix look like at the end, because when I look at that matrix, that's going to be 1x equals A and 1y equals B. So it'll be real easy to read off my answers. So I've written the system of equations over on the left of the screen here. And then here's what it looks like as an augmented matrix, and then this is what we're gonna try to reach our goal. And we're gonna use row operations to accomplish this. So that was, we could switch any two rows, we can multiply a row by a non-zero constant, and then we can multiply a row by a non-zero constant and then add it to another row. Those are the three rules I can do, and this really is just a game of arithmetic and then kind of following some rules. So not terribly difficult. I'm going to go ahead and write my augmented matrix, and we'll slow down my writing. Let's see if this is a little bit slower. A little bit slower. Okay. So I already got the 1 here. So that's kind of the first thing. The pattern is 1, 0, 1, and 0. That's what I want here, and then I'm done. So I got that 1 over there, and I want to make this 3. I want to make that a 0. Okay, so that's why I'm going to multiply row 1 by 3, and then I'm going to add it to row 2, and that's going to be my new row 2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out each part of the arithmetic in doing this row operation. So row 2-1, or entry 2-1 is this one right here. I'm going to do -3 times its corresponding part up here in row 1. We're going to add it to the 3. It's going to be 0. So I took 3 times this 1 and added it to the 3 here and got 0. Then we'll do the same thing for the entry A2, so row 2, column 2. So -3 times the -3 up here. And then we'll add it to the existing 5. And that'll give me 14. And then we'll do the game one more time. We'll do this 3 times the -3, and then we'll add that to -19. Okay, and we'll get -28. Alright, so I have gotten this much of my goal accomplished. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make this 14 into a 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not divide by 14, but multiply by the reciprocal, because we don't have a divide row operation really. I'm going to get rid of this extra clutter, and then we're going to multiply row 2 by 1 over 14, and that'll become my new row 2. So the top row is unchanged, so it's 1, -3, and 3, but the bottom row is going to be different. We're going to multiply each entry by 1 over 14. Okay, so just a little bit of arithmetic. Okay, now I'm almost done. So I got this much of what I want done in my goal. So the last thing I need to do is I need to make this -3. I need to make that a 0. So what I would want to do is I want to multiply the second row by -3, and then add that to the, not -3, how about +3? I'd want to multiply the second row by +3, and then add that to the first row, and that'll get that -3 to go away, because we'll be adding +3 to it. So 3 row 2 plus row 1, it's going to be our new row 1. Bottom row is unchanged, only the top row is being changed. Whatever this big R is, that's the only thing that's changing, or if we got the arrow going to that, that's the only thing that's changing. Okay, so we'll do each entry at the top. So 3 times 0 plus 1 is 1. 3 times 1 plus the existing -3 will give me 0. And then the last one, 3 times -2 plus 3 will give me -3. Okay? Now I got what I want. I got 1, 0, 1, 0. So this is now the identity matrix for 2 by 2s, and that's what I wanted. And now I can easily read off what my answer is going to be. So the x is going to be -3, so the first column is usually your x. Your second column is usually your y. So you have 1x is equal to -3, and 1y is equal to -2, and then write that as an ordered pair of -3, -2. So it may take a little bit of practice, but you'll get the hang of it. Let's do another example. So I'll give you the system. 2x minus 6y equals 4, and x plus 2y equals -3. Then we'll write that in the augmented matrix form. So we just drop the variables and make sure the x's are in the first column and the y's in the second column. And then we'll go ahead and write our goal so that we can refer to it again. Okay, so I'm going to be following this procedure. I want to make this a 1, and then we're going to make a 0, and then a 1, and then a 0. So that's the procedure that I want to do here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my augmented matrix. And I'm going to have two choices to do here. I can multiply the top row by a half, and that'll make the 2 turn into a 1. Or I could switch row 1 and row 2. Doesn't matter. In some cases, like in the next problem, it might be better to do the row switch. Sometimes it avoids some nasty fractions. So we're going to switch row 1 and row 2. So R1 switches R2. Okay. And we went ahead and switched them. So I got the first part of my goal met here. I got that 1 up here. So we got that 1 there, so we're good. Now what I would like to do is I'd like to get a 0 here. And how I get a 0 is I need to multiply 1 by something, add to 2 and get 0. So I should multiply the 1 by -2. So we're going to do a row 1 times -2, and then we're going to add that to row 2, and that's going to be our new row 2. So the top row is unchanged. The bottom row is going to be nice and colorful. So second row, first column, -2 times 1, and we're going to add that to the existing 2 that lives there. It gives us 0. Second row, second column, -2 times 2 plus -6. So -2 times 2. And then we're going to add that to the -6. It gives us -10. And then finally for A23, second row, third column, So here's the row 1 times negative 2 added to the second row. Gives us 10. And now I've gotten the first column taken care of. What I want now is I want this 1, or this to be a 1 now. So we want this negative 10, we want that to be a 1. And what we'll do is we'll not divide by negative 10, but we'll multiply by the reciprocal, negative 1 over 10. So multiply by the reciprocal. So top row is unchanged. Okay, and then if I multiply everything by negative 1 over 10, times 0 doesn't change it. Times negative 10, the negatives will cancel, and the 10 in the numerator, 10 in the denominator will divide out to give me 1. And then 10 times negative 1/10 will keep me a negative, and then they'll reduce down to just 1, or negative 1 in this case. Alright, so we're almost done. Now I just need to make this 2 here, I need to make it a 0. So if I multiply row 2 by negative 2 and then add it to row 1, that'll do that for me. So we're going to multiply row 2 by negative 2, add that to row 1, and that's going to replace row 1. Row 2 is unchanged. We'll write out our steps. And we'll have x is negative 1 and y is negative 1. Okay, and our ordered pair is negative 1, negative 1. And let's do one more. We'll do an augmented matrix of a 3 by 3. And this one's going to take a little bit more because there's just more stuff to do. So our goal for 3 by 4 is still a diagonal of 1s on the coefficient matrix, that's the left side, and then the numbers on the right. And then I'll draw you a little chart that kind of helps remind myself what I'm doing here. So we want to start out with making the first row, first column a 1, and then after that make everyone else in that column a 0. Then we want to make second row, second column, we want to make that a 1, and then we make everyone else a 0 in that column. And last thing we want to do is third row, third column, we want to make that a 1, and then make everyone else a 0. If we do that, then it'll be real easy to read off our answer. So if I'm looking at the matrix above here, I would have Z is C, Y is B, and then X is A. That's going to take us a little bit of work. Okay, I noticed that I already have got 1 already starting off, so good for us, and they didn't give us the system of equations, they gave us the matrix, so we don't have to do that extra step. Now what I would like to do is I'd like to make this a 0. So if I multiply row 1 by negative 2 and add it to row 2, that's going to do it for us. So top row and the bottom row are unchanged. The only thing that's changing is the bottom row. And what I'm going to do is, what you're going to do is you're going to multiply each one of your top entries by negative 2. And then you're going to add it to, let me get this out of the way, and you're going to add it to each one of these. Okay? I'm not going to narrate all over it because it might end up being more confusing for me to narrate everything. You can just watch this part. Oops, no, go back. Let's see if I can pause it here. Do a little bit of narrating now. Okay, now what happened here is the -2 is the same for each one of these because we're multiplying row 1 by -2, and then we'll do row 1, column 1, 1, and then we're going to add it to the one right underneath it. And then we'll do the same thing for the next one. Same thing for the next one. Same thing for the next one. Oops, not there. And then the 8 and the -2. And we're going to play the same game now. I've made it all the way down, and we got our 0 here. So now we're going to make this 3. We're going to make that a 0. So I'm going to take row 1, and 1 times -3 will make a -3, and the -3 and the 3 will make 0. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply the top row by -3. The top 2 rows are unchanged. The only thing that's changing is row 3. If you want to speed up the video a little bit, I'm not going to narrate over this part. And we finally get our 0 there. Okay, so now we're all the way down to here. Next thing to do is I want to make this row 3, not row 3, row 2, column 2, I want to make that a 1. Now what I'm going to do here is instead of multiplying this row by 1/5, which will do that for us, I'm going to get some fractions. So this one's going to get me out of doing fractions. You won't always be able to get out of fractions sometimes, but if I switch row 3 and row 2, that'll put this 1 up where the 5 is. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to speed up the animation here, so you just maybe have your finger on the pause button if you need to pause it for a second. I'm going to try to speed up this a little bit, try to make it as short as possible for a video. Okay, so there you have in some sort of off purple color, the rows 2 and 3 are switched. So now we've made it all the way to here. We've made this a 1. Now I'm going to make a 0 and a 0. So we're going to need to make this -1 a 0 and this 5 a 0. So that's what's going to go on here. If I just add row 2 to row 1, the 1 and the -1 will cancel. And then that'll take care of row 1. Now if I take row 2 and multiply by -5, I'll have -5 and 5, which will take care of the 5 here. Okay. So row 2 added to row 1. The bottom 2 rows are unchanged. Again, if you need to pause it, you can pause it. I'm not going to narrate all the little steps here. Okay, so we've gotten all the way up to here. We're almost done. We got a few more steps to do. That gave us this new 0 there. It'll go a lot faster when you kind of get the hang of it, but it's kind of tedious to try to teach and explain. Okay, so we're out of room on this screen, so we're going to go and do another screen. I'm going to write in our matrix again. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my goal over here again so we can refer to it. And then that little chart deal that I was talking about. Alright, so we've made it all the way to here. And what I need to do is I need to make that 5 into a 0. So if I multiply the row 2 by -5 and add it to row 3, that'll do it for me. I don't want to use row 1, because if I use row 1, because of that 1 right there, you see this 1 right here? If I start multiplying that by numbers and adding it, I'm going to get rid of these zeros here. I want these zeros here. Okay. Again, I'm not going to narrate all over this, but I will make the row that's changing colorful. Alright, so we've made it all the way to here. We've made that a 0. And the next thing to do is to make this 57 a 1. So instead of dividing by 57, I'll multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 57. So that's our next step. Row 3 times 1 over 57. So top 2 rows are unchanged. And I'll make the bottom row colorful. Now when I multiply the zeros by 1 over 57, they're still 0. And then 57 and 57 times 1 over 57 are both 1s. Alright, so now we have made row 3, column 3 a 1, and we're almost done. We just need to make this -12 and this -11. We need to make those zeros. So if I add 12 row 3 to row 2, that'll get rid of the 12 there. So top and bottom row are unchanged. Okay. When I multiply the row 3 by these two zeros here by 12, that's not going to change anything, so it's not going to change anything above. When I multiply 1 by 12 and add it to the -12, it's going to make it a 0. And then 1 times 12 is 12, added to 15 will be -3. Okay. That gets us all the way to here. And we got one more step. I need to make this last 0, which is this 11, I need to make that a 0. So if I multiply row 3 by 11, that'll do it for us, because then the 11 and the -11 will cancel. So bottom 2 rows are unchanged. Top row is the only one that's changed. And then I can read off my solutions. Z is 1, or 1z is 1, 1y is -3, and 1x is 4. And your ordered triple is 4, -3, and 1. And you can give yourself a check mark and a smiley face. And you can assume that you went ahead and anyways, you can give yourself a check mark and a smiley face because it's a long process. And it'll get faster and it takes forever to explain. So I apologize for such a long video. Maybe you only needed the first 2, or maybe you just needed to watch the last one.